overview of what exactly URScholars is, how the academic structure works, the different types of research that are available through the URScholars program, and then finally, how you can apply and get accepted and on your way to participate in this program. Okay, so, and I'm going to hide my little faces. I don't know if you could see those in my screen. So what is URScholars? It's a little bit different from a traditional study abroad program. Go abroad and you take, 4 or 5 regular courses at a host university. This really is a research intensive program where you'll spend about 30 hours a week or so researching as part of a research team in a lab. And that's kind of the bulk of your time and what you do day to day and week to week. And it's a partnership with some of the top European research universities in the world. So on a following slide, you'll see the universities that we work with for URScholars. And they're all within the top 100 in the world. So it's a pretty prestigious and unique program. It's a great resume booster. It's a great way to kind of distinguish yourself. Oh, and it's telling me my internet's unstable, so I apologize if you're noticing that. But like I said, it's a hands-on experience in the research group. So you really will be digging into the research. It's not like you're not auditing the research or things like that. You really are going to be involved in it. And the best kind of student for URScholars is someone who's a pretty independent student, someone who's highly ambitious. And then this program is really only available to undergraduate students who are currently enrolled in a North American university. And the way that ISA interacts with URScholars is kind of good for you to know. So we're a recruiter for the URScholars program. So we do all of the like student engagement before the application. We recruit students. We do the advising on admissions, and then we're the liaison to get you accepted into the program. And we're actually the only route to go for applying to this program. So any student who wants to be a URScholar, they do have to apply directly through us. And then a good thing for you to know is that the research itself is done entirely in English. So you don't need to speak like German or French or anything like that. Dutch, kind of one of the different languages, to be able to participate in this program. Everything's done in English, so that's kind of a benefit of the program as well. All right, and these are the partner universities where you can find different research projects available. So I would say the 2 that we place the most students at every semester are going to be KU Leuven in Leuven, Belgium, and the University of Geneva in Geneva, Switzerland. So you'll see those 2 listed there. We also work with Leiden University, which is in the Netherlands. And then we also work with LMU in Munich, Germany. They are ending their partnership with the URScholars Consortium after 2021 is over. So they are accepting students for the fall of 2021, if that's something that you are interested in. But then starting in 2022, they'll no longer be one of the members. All right, so who is eligible to join the URScholars research program? Really, the only strict requirement of the program is a 3.4 GPA. So as long as you have that cumulative GPA, and you're able to be a little bit flexible in the research projects that are of interest to you. So you find 2 or 3 projects that you're interested in, you've got the 3.4 GPA, we're almost always able to get a student placed into the program with those two kind of criteria met. If you have like a 3.3, you know, you're kind of on the cusp, we can usually get students accepted with that as well. But anything below a 3.3, I would probably have you wait a semester or two to get that GPA up to apply to the program. And then some of these other bullets are just kind of good to haves. They're not like crucial. You know, they're not super firm. They're kind of open-ended requirements for the program. So of course, we want a student who is interested in research. You wouldn't apply to and join the program if you weren't interested in research. It's good to be, like we said, kind of an independent student. You'll, in most cases, be working with a full research team on the program, but it is very possible that you'll be the only URoScholars student that's in that specific research project. So it does take a little bit of independence and ownership and open-mindedness to be a part of the program. We don't really have like a strict requirement of you need to be a junior or a senior, things like that. It's preferred that you're an upperclassman, but we do take underclassmen as well, especially if you do have already a pretty strong academic background. You know, you've taken quite a few core courses that are related to the research. You've taken labs, maybe you've done some outside research or summer internships, things like that. Then you know, that can supplement your ability to join the program as well. And this is available to undergraduate students. We can accept students right after they've graduated from undergrad and they're looking for something to do before hopping into grad school. So we are able to accept those students. In some cases, we can accept grad students as well, but typically it's more suited for the undergraduate student. So what are the academics like? Like we talked about, since you will be in the lab for about 30 hours a week, of course, the bulk of the credit that you get back is the research credit. So at least 18 ECTS are going to be awarded just for the research itself. And you get a total of 24 to 30 ECTS, which is like the European Credit Transfer System, I think is what it stands for. So you can already tell, you know, 18 out of that 24 to 30 is going to be on your transcript as research. And Felicia, we talked about this before, but how does ECTS transfer back to your university?
Yeah, I was literally just typing it in the chat so that way
great.
people would have that as an equivalent too. But so this is really equivalent to 12 to 15 US credit hours. And I know Matt's going to go into like the variability of how we can go from the 12 to the 15 for some of the universities that they work with. But 9 of those credit hours are going to be kind of more specifically research focused. For those of you that are neuroscience majors, and we can go into this a little bit more after the presentation, but 6 of those hours can be can take care of your research-based thesis that you need to do as a major. So that's a good thing to keep in mind with this program.
Excellent. Great. So yeah, that's really good for you guys to know. So that's the research part of things. And then there is a language and culture course that's a required component of the program. And it really is just meant to help you your day-to-day life while you're abroad in the city. And that course will be a little bit different at each host university you go to. You know, some of them, it's going to be like a course that you take for the first month of the program, and it's worth 4 ECTS. And then there's some places where it'll be 6 ECTS, and it's for the full duration of the semester. So that'll vary a little bit. And once you're accepted into your research project, we'll kind of go over that more with you with the creation of a learning agreement, which we'll talk about a little bit later here as well. And then Another component of the program that's possible is taking an elective course. So this is just like a regular actual course at the host university that you would be able to take if you want. As long as the course that you need is available in English, then you're more than welcome to take this elective course option. It can be a little bit challenging if you have super specific courses that you need to take, because oftentimes those aren't taught in English at the host university. So that's always a little bit variable as well. And again, with the learning agreement, after you're accepted into the program, that's when you really iron out, okay, these are the courses that are possible to take. These ones will work with me. You work with your home university and the host university to make that decision about the elective course. And this is just a quick slide to show a lot of the different fields where we offer research project placements. So you can see that we have we cover almost any field of study possible. So we even have like business and psychology, things like that. But of course, I would say like 70% of our students in EuroScholars participate in hard science research, just because that's the nature of the beast. So you guys, with your major, you'd be in really good company, focusing more on the hard sciences. And so this slide is just meant to go over like, what is the living situation that's provided by EuroScholars. So housing is included within the program, and you're basically going to be in student housing. And in Europe, that can vary quite a bit. Sometimes you'll be in a dorm that's located on campus, but most of the time in Europe, those student residences are actually going to be off campus and you commute in using public transportation. So that's what most of the housing will be like through EuroScholars. And you'll have a single room typically in a shared dorm. So with shared living is apartment style situation for the housing. And then you'll work really closely with the international office at the host university while you're a host institution coordinator is what it's called. And they're going to be kind of your primary go-to person to help with the logistics and your orientation and all of those things that come with living and learning in your host city. And then there is a mid-stay program that's also included in the cost of this program. And it's basically for 1 week while you're abroad, all of the EuroScholars students at all of the different host universities will meet up at one of the host universities, and you'll have some different like cultural activities, some learning opportunities, some guest speakers. All of the students will also have the opportunity to present on their work and their findings so far. So it's kind of a cool opportunity for career building and meeting other like-minded students. And that's all of the elements of like traveling there and lodging included in the program. And this is just a list of some of the outcomes that we see with the EuroScholars program. So like we talked about earlier, it's definitely something that a lot of students choose to do as a resume booster, as a way to differentiate yourself among other students who maybe they're performing research, but they're not in international context. They're not doing it at one of these really prestigious universities. So it's a great opportunity in that way. It's also something that a lot of students do to really refine their goals for the future. So that's why we often get students who join the program right after they've graduated from undergrad, because they're still trying to decide, what do I want to do? Do I want to go to grad school? Do I want to be a researcher? Do I want to be a professor? You know, things like that. So while you're in undergrad or right after undergrad, it's a great time to take an opportunity like this to really get your feet wet and see if you like it. And then you can adjust your future plans based on your experience. We've actually seen some students go on to go to grad school at some of these universities, or even have careers at these host universities in the labs that they've worked in as a Euroscholar student, or even in a different lab at the host university. So that's kind of a cool outcome that we've seen for some students. And then we also see joint publications every now and then. It's not something that's guaranteed through the program, of course, but I would say every semester we see 1 or 2 students be published jointly along with their research team, which is obviously a really big deal. So to apply to the program, it's relatively straightforward. On our website, Euroscholars.eu is the main website. EU is in Europe. You can just click the Apply Now button, and there's an online application that takes like 5 or 10 minutes to complete. But I would say the first step is just to go to that website and look at the project search that we'll show you here in one of the next slides. Find a couple projects of interest. If you're not able to find some projects of interest, definitely don't give up. You can always contact me via phone or email. You can see it listed right here for you. And I can help you craft a project proposal and your academic resume, just those 2 documents. And I can send those to the host universities to see if they have any additional research projects that maybe aren't listed on our project search, but could be available to you as a Euroscholar student. So definitely don't feel discouraged if you're not able to find some projects using the search. It's definitely not the end all be all. And I usually have a lot of success helping place students with that project proposal route. And then once you've found those projects of interest, you'll work with Felicia, and then you'll work with me on your application. Once you start the online application, I'll then have you complete a cover letter, an academic resume, 2 letters of recommendation, and a couple of other really little things. And then once we have your full application, we'll send it off to your top research project for their review. And it's really good for you guys to know as well that admissions are on a rolling basis. So as soon as you complete your full application to the program, you know, we don't just sit with it until the application comes, or until the application deadline comes around. I will pretty immediately send it off to your top choice project, and they'll take about 2 to 4 weeks to review it and to make their decision. And like we said earlier, this program, even though it is really prestigious, it's not overly competitive at this time. So as long as you do meet the GPA requirement and you're able to find a few projects of interest, our odds of getting you placed are really, really high. So that's good for you guys to know, that you're not wasting valuable time applying to the program. And this is what the project search looks like on the Euroscholars.eu website. So you can see here, you can actually type in your area of interest and click on the search button, or you can use the left-hand side. There's all these filters, so you'll filter by kind of an overarching field, and then below it you see this little interest section, and then you can make it even more specific to you. And then you can even filter by location. We don't typically recommend filtering by location if you can help it. Really the goal is to be like, hey, I really want to study and research neuroscience, and I'll go wherever in the world is best suited toward that research. But of course, if you have taken like French or Dutch or something like that, and you'd like to be placed in one of those locations, you can definitely have that as like one of your criteria as you're looking for top projects. So then after you've been accepted to your specific project, really we pass the torch on at that point to the host university, and you'll work really closely with that host institution coordinator to do all of the logistics related to getting you abroad. So they'll work on the learning agreement with you to really outline and define, this is exactly how many credits we're getting through the program for each specific component. This is the elective course you're taking, things like that, just to make sure everyone's on the same page and you know exactly how many credits you're going to get back at your university. And then this is the point where you also will start finding out about, okay, this is where my housing is going to be, and I'm signing up for it. And you get your program dates confirmed. The host institution coordinator will work with you on the visa process, since every student will need a visa for this program. Because I don't think we mentioned this is only available for the full semester. So all the programs are more than 90 days. So every student will need a visa. And then the host institution coordinator will also help you with insurance and flights and things like that. All right, and these are the deadlines to keep in mind for when you're ready to apply to the program. So right now we're really in the recruitment cycle for fall or academic year. And the deadline this year is April 15th. It's usually April 1st, but we've adjusted it this year to make it a little bit later, just so we can keep monitoring COVID and seeing how that goes. And it can give students a little bit more time to make their decisions about what they want to do. So that's the deadline for fall. For spring, it's October 1st. And again, it is rolling admissions. So the sooner you apply, the better. You can know exactly what your placement is and have that like out of the way sooner than these deadlines. And then, of course, it's important to mention the cost of the program. So we set the program price 2 times a year. It's 9,975 euros plus $500. So it's kind of strange how the program price comes to be, but that's the like foundation of what the program price is every single year. And then just twice a year, we set the price based on the exchange rate. And it usually ends up being like somewhere around $11,000, somewhere between $11,000 and $12,000, depending on the exchange rate. And that includes the tuition and housing. It includes any administrative fees, the use of the facility, all of the facilities at the university, just as if you were any other student at the host university. It includes that mid-stay program. And then it also includes our ISA insurance. Our ISA insurance is quite comprehensive, but there are some host universities that require students to have additional insurance that's based in the host country. And really, that's only the University of Geneva. They require students to have actual Swiss insurance. So your host institution coordinator, if you're based in Geneva, they'll work with you. They'll help you secure the insurance for the Swiss insurance. And that's just needed for visa purposes and for the Swiss government purposes. Okay, and I think this is the last slides for you today, but I did want to cover the Euroscholars Awards. Sometimes we call them the Euroscholars grants as well. So every semester, Euroscholars Consortium awards students 5 grants of up to 2,500 euros every single semester. And the scholarship application materials for you are due at the same time as the application line. All that's really needed is a really short essay and then a document that will have you complete with your financial aid office, just to show how much aid, financial aid and grants and things you receive, because this grant is awarded based on financial need. So I would say typically, if a student is on federal grant aid or things like that, they stand a good chance of receiving one of these grants. And there are 5 of them awarded every semester, and we get about 15 to 25 students on the program every semester. So your odds of receiving a grant, if you do have a high financial need, are pretty high. So I definitely encourage students to apply that. And that is all that I had for the presentation part.
Thank you, Matt. It's super informative, and I know there's lots of good bits, and I had some people sending me questions and sending questions in the chat, and we will definitely get to those. But I think it'd be also beneficial for myself and for everybody on the call to be able to hear from someone that experienced the program firsthand. And so for that, Alex is going to enlighten us a little bit. So Alex, if you could tell us a little bit about what your experience on NeuroScholars was like.
Yes, thank you. Great presentation. I think to start with I would definitely recommend the program 100%. To start with, like, the first experience I had is that the toughest experience was most definitely getting the visa, because you have to get the visa, you're apply for the program, and then also you're doing your coursework because you're still in school. So I was doing my semester, a visa, and the program application. But it's hard to get the visa, but it's really worth it in Europe because it's called the Schengen visa. So once you get it, you can travel without a passport to the rest of Europe. So like once you're in Germany, you can go to Spain, you can go anywhere in Europe. You need a visa. You don't need a visa for the United Kingdom because but overall, it's really great. And another thing in particular about the application is that you contact the professor directly, and you talk to them, and then they give you the permission to apply. So like I talked to my professor after I went on the website, I filled out the application, and then the professor called me and we spoke. And once he was satisfied with like what I would do when we got there, and that we had like a plan in place, it wasn't like we didn't need like the thesis ready, we just like an outline. He gave permission on the visa for me to go. So you're able to speak directly with the person you're going to be working with, and you're going to be able to talk to them directly about what the accommodations will be. So I went to KU Leuven, and I went with 3 other Euroscholars. I know like the 3 Euroscholars, they did sciences, I did social sciences. So for the social sciences, I worked directly one-on-one with the professor, and I would go to his office. I was doing a comparative research project on the electoral politics of Belgium and the United States. And we were measuring the partisan statements of each political party, and like how political parties interacted with each other, because Belgium has like 10 like political parties and America has 2, because like elections in Belgium, you vote for the party you identify with, and then those parties form coalitions after the election. Now, I could talk for an hour about this, but I know for the science students, they all worked in laboratories. There's one student who's a psychology major, and I actually was a volunteer for her research project. She worked directly. There's a hospital in Leuven that's like the size of the campus, basically. It's like its own part of the town. and she worked directly in the hospital to develop hearing aids. And like these hearing aids had the ability to like try and restore the sensitivity of your hearing by sending different frequencies and different like syllable and like just like little noises at different like syllables and at different volumes. So I participated in the program, and I would sit in the room and like I put like headphones on, and she would send these little like little voices, little words and stuff, and I would have to try and answer them back. Like it was a memory game. So you wouldn't answer, you had to hear the sound, go to the next sound, hear that sound, and then answer what you heard for the previous sound. So when you heard a sound, you had to answer for the previous sound. And she actually won the competition for the mid-stay. We have a mid-stay competition, and she actually won it with that. So yeah, so the projects are real. You're working in the laboratory. I know another student, she's still working on her publication. So I didn't personally work on it, but like I definitely know that the science on the program is like the real deal. And the mid-stay, and then in terms of how ISA, like they are in contact with you every day, so you can contact the program directly, and then you can contact the school directly. The nice thing about all these schools is that they have their own campuses, so it's not like you're living in some random, you're living on a campus, you're living on a university campus. So if you have experience living on a campus in America, it's exactly the same thing in Europe. And the benefit of that too is that you're going to be living with other study abroad students, because like there's this thing called Erasmus, which is the same thing as our study abroad. So all the students I was with, they were on an exchange program too. So they were only in the Belgium, they were only in the town for like the same period I was in. So you're like on the same, like you're coming into I came into a community that was already, had this pace, had this community, had these expectations. So, even though I felt completely out of place, I was actually right where I was supposed to be. So, it's a great way to introduce yourself to the continent, because you're going to be with students of your like age range, same kind of like place in terms of like, you don't really have a career yet. So you're still students, you're still, exploring. So it's also a great way to meet people. The mid-stay, yeah, so the mid-stay program was interesting because it's like in the middle, like all the people in the program go to one university, and you like spend like a weekend together. You have like, you go to lunches, they take you to companies, and then the companies try and recruit you. So like we went to this, like we had the mid-stay in Leuven. So there's this factory called IMAC, and they're like a nanotechnology crazy company. And they gave us a tour of the building, and they let us into like the hard room. Like there's this, like I think it's called 500, and like they have like this room. It's like all white, and they work on like the smallest. Like they're working on some of the smallest microchips in existence right now. And they gave us a tour of it and look around, and then they did this little recruiting pitch. I'm like a social science guy, so I was really like, I was just at the snack bar. I was like having the extra coffees. It wasn't my cup of tea for sure, but the program takes it seriously. The school takes you seriously, and the companies in Europe take you very seriously. So, and then you have a little competition too with the project. So everybody has their own project, and then you present your findings in a PowerPoint, and the winner gets to go to another conference sponsored by the EuroScholars to present their findings at a full like scientific conference. Like so, yeah, it's really great. Like the program, like the EuroScholars program is the most unique study abroad program you'll find. I mean, maybe there's others, but this is definitely a program like none else.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Alex. So again, The program is an awesome opportunity if you're trying to gain research experience while as a student at UAB. And then like Alex was saying, you'll be in cohorts of other students also working on research projects. So it's a great opportunity to network. And like Matt was saying, some of our students have gone back to continue their research or even to work abroad. So it's a great program to consider. Myself, Matt, and Felicia are all here to, help answer questions and help you navigate the application process if you are interested. I saw that we had some questions there in the chat that I wasn't sure, Felicia, if you wanted to mention about the recording, and then Matt, I wasn't sure if there was an internal link for the URoScholars scholarship opportunities or how to best handle that. So.
Yeah, so I had a couple of questions also sent to my direct message here. So I'll kind of like go through those. As far as the recording, yes, this is going to be accessible. We'll have it on our Education Abroad YouTube channel, but we'll also put it on the actual online brochure, which let me drop that in the chat if you guys haven't seen that. So this is very useful because it's going to have some of that good knowledge that Matt already shared, but then also our application link through UAB. Just a fun fact to note before I dive into these questions, any student going anywhere abroad, whether it's URoScholars, what have you, any program, you guys will always have 2 applications running. And one is with UAB to tie you back to your financial aid and scholarships here at the university and get your courses to transfer back. And the other is going to be with your provider. So in this case, it's going to be ISA Euroscholars. And so that would be your second application, in which I can also share with you that link. But the one I just shared in the chat, save that. That's where we'll put our recording and everything for you guys to kind of refresh your memory on everything we covered today. Let's see, what else did we get? So I got a question as far as which scholarships from UAB and Education Abroad can be used to cover the costs of the program. So in addition to the URoScholars grants that Matt mentioned for the program, you are still eligible to use your current UAB financial aid and scholarships that you get on a semester by semester basis. Since this is a semester long program, if you're getting like presidential scholarship, Blazer Elite, collegiate, things like that, or if you're getting federal Pell Grant, loans, what have you, you're typically getting those in a spring semester and a fall semester. So the same can be said for just doing that semester in Europe through this program. We have what's called a consortium agreement that we put on your application with UAB. So once you are accepted into the program from the projects that you've listed on your URoScholars application, we will send that to you and say, hey, would you mind having Matt fill this out, or someone with URoScholars fill out this consortium agreement? And that's your ticket to tell UAB financial aid that you are indeed going abroad and that you need that financial aid scholarships to travel with you. So the blanket answer is most everything. If you have something more niche that you have questions about, such as I know UAB has a tuition assistance benefit for dependents of workers at UAB. Those are things that may not necessarily travel, but you and I can talk about those one-on-one. In addition to all this, we have a host of scholarships as well. Office of Education Abroad has $90,000 in scholarships we give away every single year. And so I would definitely encourage you guys to reach out for that funding too. Okay. I think in your presentation, Matt, you answered the application deadline question. So just another note on that is that since there are 2 applications that you guys are managing, one with the URoScholars program and one with us, our deadline for fall is coming up a little bit quicker than URoScholars. So I'll say if you're interested, please go ahead and get started on that link I shared on the chat. Our deadline is March 15th. I know that sounds like it's coming up really quickly, but I can let you know that our application takes like maybe 15 or 20 minutes. So it will not take you long at all. If you just want to start interest there is no commitment if you start on our side of the application and then you figure out, I have to take such and such class this summer or this fall rather. So maybe I need to postpone and do it spring. That's totally fine. I'll just say if you are interested in getting it started, go ahead and get our side started so that way we do get you in before the deadline. Where do you apply for scholarships? So Matt, can you elaborate on where they do apply for those NeuroScholars grants?
Yes. So once you complete our application, which again is pretty similar, it takes like 5 minutes. It's really, the application's really general. You'll notice it doesn't even ask you like, what are your top research projects or like, where do you want to go? It's really just an online application to create a file for you on our side so that then you can complete the rest of your application materials bit by bit. So once we get that initial application, you'll then get access to your ISA student portal, and that's where you'll complete your application materials over time. You can take as long as you need before the deadline to complete those materials. And then that's also where you'll find the 2 scholarship. They're in the our application materials section. You'll see just these 2 optional scholarship forms that you would need to complete in that section before the deadline. So that's how you apply to it.
Sweet, thank you. And I'm pulling up right now too a link I want to share with you guys about our scholarships, so that way you have those to rely on. It's terrible when I'm working on one small screen. I can't like easily find the things that I'm needing, but on our side, it's through the same application portal that I linked in the chat. It's just a different application saying Education Abroad scholarships. But the link I'm about to share with you is just an overview of all scholarships that you could potentially apply for. Ours is the one that is highlighted at the top, but if you want to look further, there's other things such as like country-based scholarships, research-based scholarships. So I would encourage you guys to consider those as well. Just as I am beating the dead horse here about scholarships, someone had another question that came across my direct message about things like tuition-based scholarships at UAB, such as presidential. So if you do have a tuition-based scholarship, how those work when you take them abroad on a semester experience is they are still going to be prorated to the amount of credit that you're taking. That's where that consortium agreement that I mentioned really comes in handy, because that's where someone with UroScholars is going to say, hey, Alex is taking 12 credit hours while at Leuven this semester, so their presidential scholarship needs to be for 12 hours. And so that's when you'll get that amount, which is your current tuition rate at UAB, which I think right now, if they haven't already changed it on us, it's $3.57 a credit hour for most people. So it's that times 12, and then that would help you pay for your program fee with ISA. So yes, I think that is all the scholarship questions. So if you have more, don't fret, like please post them, because I know that's usually where a lot of questions come out. We also got, how often do research projects change or get updated? Matt, if you want to tackle that one.
Yeah, that is a great question too. They don't change very often. So if you see a project on the website right now, it'll very likely be available next year, the following year, things like that. And then we typically every year get just a few new projects, just a handful of new projects. So they don't change very much. These projects have been going for many, many years, and a lot of them don't really have an end date. And you'll just jump in with the research team wherever they're at, and they'll usually do kind of a research methods, like bringing you up to speed on where they're at on the project as you're first starting. But these are pretty long-term projects that you'll see continuing on from year to year.
Good to know. I didn't even think about that question because I am not research minded. So very good question. Then Ariba asks, so you wouldn't need to submit any rec letters by the March 15th deadline? No, there is no rec letters on our side of things. There is probably rec letters needed for your Euroscholars application, but that's again with that April 15th deadline. So on our side, our application is mostly going to have policies and statements that you're reading and e-signing. The most troublesome thing is setting up an appointment with me. So just getting that squared away is going to be the most time consuming bit for you guys. And that's it. If you have got other questions too, drop them in, unmute yourself. Still got a little bit of time here today. I wanted to ask Alex a question about your experience, if you wouldn't mind. So I wanted to see, how did Euroscholars impact you when you came back? Did it impact any opportunities that you had completing your education at your home university, or like after you graduated, if you're graduated, has that opened up other opportunities for you in that way?
Yeah, it really like altered my entire professional trajectory. It kind of changed everything, to be honest. Not like the experience, like the Euroscholars in particular of academics. You know, it wasn't very transformative. Like I didn't get anything directly from it, but just the experience of living abroad for 6 months, it really builds just living in another country for an extended period of time and completing like a project, like it builds your resume for any kind of exchange program in the future. So if you want to work in another country, it's such a big deal. And that is really important because when you consider all of these companies in America have another office in the rest of the world. And a lot of people that come to become a student in America, they come, like a lot of students in America are from another country. So those students can compete in their market and the American market. So if you go and if you travel to another country, then you can compete in that market too. So it builds up just in terms of, it really changed. Like I was going to study like law, like I was pursuing a degree in law, but I felt like it's such a slow job. It's such a slow career. I wanted to do something where I get to be more flexible. So like, even though I'm not able to travel abroad for the past year, I have been really busy with all of these kind of conferences. So I've been, in conferences. I actually just started a new exchange program with Russia, not affiliated with ISA, but it is like an exchange program. So I'm working with Russian students every week now to work on like little projects and stuff. So the entire like study abroad, it's like a community. It's its own community. It's its own career. So even if you don't get that publication, just getting connected to ISA and other programs like it is its own career on itself. And it's a career I think is really cool because it's all about meeting people. It's all about connecting people and, building bridges.
Networking is not as scary as it needs to be. I feel like study abroad gives you a very easy way to network with people that you meet abroad or that have been on a similar journey as you have. So I think that's a wonderful thing. And it sounds like, Alex, you've reaped the benefits of that. So I'm very glad to hear it. I know that we're running just about at time. And I know that there might be some lingering questions that pop into y'all's minds when you hop off this call today. So I do want to express again that we are all here to answer your questions. I will be sending everyone that registered for today's meeting, not only the recording, but our contact information if you'd like to reach out to us for specific questions, and the contact information for Dr. Kristen Gavin. So she has helped put this program together as well, specifically for our neuroscience majors. So if you have questions for her about how this relates to y'all's degree, I would definitely encourage you to reach out to her about those specific questions, because she's been very influential on that side. But yeah, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. And thank you, Matt, Jenny, and Alex for sharing your wisdom, because I would not have been able to do it alone.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, it was so good to be here. And
all right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.